yourself can actually be super hard, and things that would come really naturally to you all of a sudden become quite overwhelming when you have to assume the tasks of everyone that would usually be there helping. You now, the filmer, you're the person that's going to be in the shots, you are going to be the director or whatever else might be the case for your specific scene. But I have 7 things that have helped me drastically over the years of making videos all by myself, and I'm going to share those with you guys today. Today's video is sponsored by Audio, a music licensing platform, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about them later on. Tip 1 is going to be to have a solid plan. I think you should have a plan no matter what you're filming. If you're just shooting a usual video with other people, you should still have a plan because it's going to make your whole video flow a lot better. You're going to know what you're going to be doing. But when it comes to solo filmmaking, it is even more important to have a plan and to know exactly what you guys are actually trying to shoot. This is because all of a sudden when you're on your own, even the simplest things are going to take a lot longer and be a lot harder to achieve. So when you're filming someone else, something that might be really easy, that you don't really need a plan for, you can kind of just get a few shots of them walking through a certain scene, doesn't really matter. You can't do that when you're on your own. You have to plan out everything way more because you're gonna have to set up that tripod in the shot that you want, get your framing, then you're gonna have to walk into frame or do the specific action that you want in that shot, and then you're gonna have to go back to your camera, check if it worked, set down the camera, and then move on to the next thing that you planned. I usually keep it simple, write a couple of bullet points like a shot of me getting in the car, a shot of me driving, a shot of me arriving at a location, and a shot of me looking at the view, something like that, and then I can follow along and get those shots. You guys can go much more in detail if you want and specify each shot and the type of angle or whatever you want to get. It's up to you what you personally like to do, but to have some sort of plan is definitely essential. The second thing is going to be having the right gear. Generally, you're obviously going to need everything like camera, batteries, SD card, the same as usual when you guys would be shooting with friends. But for when you're solo filmmaking, personally, I keep it really simple. Firstly, because I have to carry around everything by myself. Secondly, because a lot of the tools that I would be using when I'm shooting other people become quite irrelevant. I'm not going to carry a big heavy gimbal up a mountain to get 1 or 2 shots of the scenery, and I can't film myself with a gimbal. The most important tool for me actually is a tripod, and I don't really like to go with one of those small little ones. I like to go with a full-on, full-size tripod that I can lift up to like head high and make sure that I can get the different angles that I want. The little ones are great, and I do use them sometimes, but they are very limiting because you can only really get that low angle from the ground unless you can find something to prop it up on, whether it's a bench or hooking it on a sketchy tree branch. Personally, I just go for the full-size tripod. I can put my camera exactly where I want it to be at any one of those heights. The other piece of gear that I kind of focus on when I'm shooting by myself is a lens that has a wide focal range. It's very easy to only shoot really wide open when you're filming by yourself because it's a lot easier to compose your shot and make sure that you're going to be in the frame and all of that. But they often don't look nearly as nice because it's just this huge big wide shot and you're just walking past, for example. It's a good idea to have some of those, but it's also a good idea to have some really nice zoomed in shots, whether that's a close-up little detail or it's just zoomed into you walking further in the distance. It creates a very different look and aesthetic for the shot, and it doesn't give as much of that like I threw my camera on a tripod and filmed myself kind of feeling, which at the end of the day is what we are not really trying to achieve. We want it to look like a professional video, and when people watch it, we don't want them to think, oh, that he filmed that by himself, of himself. Tip 3 is going to be framing and composition. I think the most important thing to focus on here is variety of shots, because it's really easy to put your camera on 16mm, throw it on a bench and get a shot of you walking past, but it's not always going to look as pleasing as something like 100mm shot zoomed in onto something specific with some foreground, and you're kind of walking there in the distance, nicely framed up. It has a much more powerful effect. Personally, I think when your shots are just full wide and placed somewhere with no movement in your shot, it's relatively obvious to tell that you guys filmed that yourself. So try and just really put in the extra effort of zooming in all the way, or at least just getting wide shots, medium shots, close-up shots, and think about how you want that scene to play out. Another way I really like to do this is capture some shots that are not actually of yourself. You can get something of the environment surrounding you to give the audience a little perspective of where you actually are. And this is also a great opportunity for you to add some real movement into your shots, because you're not going to be in those ones in particular. So maybe it's an interesting scene, maybe it's an interesting detail, whatever it is, you can get those extra shots to make sure that you have enough variety and coverage for your final video. Regardless of if you guys are filming videos of yourself or other people, for that matter, any video that you guys might be needing, you need some proper music to make those videos epic. And that's where the sponsor of today's video comes in, Audio. Audio is an online music licensing platform with some of the highest quality music that I've found on the internet. Having the correct music for the scene that you guys are shooting is something that completely transforms your video and the professionality of it. If you guys want to find out anything about Audio, they're going to be linked in the top of the description, and all the music that you guys have heard in this video is from Audio. Go and check them out. They have some amazing offers and sign-up deals. See you over there. Tip 4 is going to be focus, and there's only really two things you can do here. You can either have it on auto or you can have it on manual. And a lot of people are saying that you should only be on manual when you're filming yourself, and I do get where they're coming from, but personally I think you should be doing both depending on the scenario that you guys are filming, or the specific shot at least. If I'm going to be doing something where I have some foreground in my shot, or maybe I want an artistic shot where I have some foreground in focus and my subject or background out of focus, or I want something moving into frame that's going to be only in focus in that shallow little part of frame and then go in and out of focus, also looks really cool, then I'm of course going to switch over into manual. But there's lots of scenarios that I would opt to use auto instead of manual, especially when I have a camera like the A7S III that's autofocus I can actually rarely trust. Anything like this where it's got my face in it, it's going to be way better to be in autofocus, because it's going to lock on that focus every single time, and I trust that it will. Another scenario is if I want my focus to change as I'm walking either to or from the camera and going in and out of that little focus field. If I want it to track me, I'll swap over into autofocus. Maybe another example would be if the frame is going to be focused on something else, like if I was out of frame, it will focus on the background, but when I come back into frame, it's going to swap its focus back onto me. If I was doing a shot like that, I would want it in autofocus. Tip 5 is going to be to review your shots when you can. Now, like we mentioned, filming videos of yourself is a more time-consuming process, and I think you should take the extra time to review the shots that you've captured whenever you can, because although it does mean you have to go back to your camera, watch it, make sure you've captured it, it's a lot better than getting back home to editing and realizing that some of your critical shots that you need for your story to make sense didn't work. Maybe they're out of focus, maybe you framed it wrong and your head's out of the frame, or whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, it's going to be quicker just to look at that shot that you just filmed and make sure it worked out the way that you had it in your mind. Tip 6 is going to be understanding your limitations and using them to your advantage. Now, if you guys have watched some of my solo filmmaking videos, you probably know that this is one of my favorite aspects of solo filmmaking, because understanding those limitations and figuring out how to use them to your advantage is so rewarding and satisfying when the ideas that you have actually work. I've done some crazy things. I've had zip wires, I've had cameras on skateboards following me to get movement, whatever. It doesn't really matter what you guys are doing, but it does matter that you understand that being a solo filmmaker is probably as limiting as it gets. Think about it. You've pretty much stripped away everything that you would be used to in a normal filming scenario. You're gonna have to be doing everything on your own now. Everything is gonna take longer. You're gonna have to go back and set up your camera, walk into the frame, go get it back, move to the next place. Maybe you didn't get it. No one can tell you if your audio was working or if the focus worked, so you got to watch the shot again. The list goes on, and I'm not trying to get you guys down, but the important part about this is to understand that it is very limiting and to embrace it and to not let it get you down. Tip 7 is going to be faking your camera movement. Now, look, a lot of the time having a sequence of lock-off shots one after another is going to be good enough and still look really visually pleasing if you guys put the right amount of effort into making those shots look nice. But there is another way that you guys can just add another aspect of creating some interest in those shots, and that's with digital movement in your shots. Once you're in your editing software, you can add in some like slow punch ins, maybe it's a punch out. You can also zoom in and then move that frame around slightly, and this is just going to add that extra element of movement and interest into each one of your shots. Don't overdo it. Maybe don't put it on every single shot, like punching in, punching out, moving sideways, but adding it to a few of the shots really makes a big difference. I like to shoot in my highest resolution possible because this means you are going to be digitally cropping into your image and losing some of that quality. Shoot in 4K if you can, and remember that you should also frame up a lot of your shots slightly wider than you might want the finished result to be, because again, it's going to be cropping in. Okay, that is going to be it for this one, guys. I hope these tips were useful. Remember, just head out and make something all by yourself. It's so rewarding, and I'm sure you'll be happy with the result if you put the effort in. Check out Audio. They're going to be linked in the top of the description. They are an amazing music licensing platform, and you guys will benefit from checking out all their music and using it in your videos because it makes it look so professional, which is what you want to do, especially when you are filming by yourself. So other than that, I will see you guys in the next one.